Trump's lawyers and aide get 10 more felony charges over Wisconsin's fake electors plan. Wow, guys, you are being lied to again by the media, and you are being lied to about this fake electors plan, which is not fake electors. The alternate electors were never a scheme. It was never legal. It's a constitutional legal process that's happened in this country before, and I am going to show you exactly why and how you have been lied to about literally everything that has taken place on that fateful day in January, okay, in 2021, all right? Trump's lawyers and aide get 10 more felony charges over Wisconsin fake electors plan. The Wisconsin Department of Justice charged 2 of President-elect Donald Trump's lawyers and a former aide with 10 additional felony charges on Tuesday for their alleged roles in Wisconsin's fake electors scheme surrounding the 2020 presidential election, except there was never a fake elector scheme, and they're lying to you about that. They are literally lying to you. They had to amend the clause, the whole act that manages the confirming of electors. They had to amend it in 2022 in order to then change the process to make this no longer a thing, guys. So seriously, man, don't believe the stupid things they tell you, guys. The 2 attorneys, Jim Trupis and Kenneth Chesborough, and the aide who directed the election day operations in 2020, Mike Roman, and all initially faced 1 felony forgery charge in the state that was filed in June. Now each man faces 10 more felony charges accused of defrauding the 10 presidential electors who cast the votes for Trump. These charges come 2 days before the men are scheduled for their initial court appearances in Dane County Circuit Court. So now they're trying to charge them for individually defrauding the 10 presidential electors? They're trying to charge them individually? Bro, man, the lawfare that they engage in is ridiculous, dude. If this was the other way around, let's say this was illegal. Let's just assume this was illegal real quick. If this was the other way around, they would charge them with the felony charge, and then they would not, dude, I guarantee it, they would not bother with these individual charges, man. It's crazy, dude. And then in the George Floyd riots, the DA's dropping the charges of people firebombing buildings and all this stuff, dude. Dude, the double standard is insane, man. Each of the 11 felony charges has a maximum penalty of 6 years and a $10,000 fine. The Wisconsin complaint alleges 3 men created a document falsely claiming Trump won the state's 10 electoral college votes and then tried to deliver it to former Vice President Mike Pence. And when all the craziness occurred that day, all the FBI agents that were in there fomenting the craziness, you want to think that that's fake news. It's not fake news. The media is lying to you again, and we are going to show you exactly how. Dude, they specifically, the reason why that day popped off the way it was is because the feds who were in that crowd did not want this happening. They did not want the 3 men to deliver this to Mike Pence, because it was Mike Pence's job to review this evidence and then review how that evidence relates to their count of the electoral's vote, okay? This has happened before in history. We're going to talk about when in history it's happened before, because it's happened literally in the same way. It's not illegal. This is, dude, it's crazy the way that they try to claim this. And with the feds that they had in the crowd, the way they made everything pop off, in my opinion, the way they made everything pop off to prevent exactly this is exactly this. Y'all are told that day was one thing, when in reality it was another. It was, dude, everybody out there wanted this to happen, and they wanted the show to continue. It was the feds that specifically were engaging, in my opinion, in an intelligence operation where they wanted to end any looking at the evidence and any looking at what happened. And then that's why after they got that day shut down, they then went later on and had that whole act changed. And we're going to go over this real quick. The complaint filed on Tuesday stated the majority of the 10 electors said they needed to sign the elector certificate stating that Trump won in order to preserve his legal options if a court altered the outcome of the election, because there were legal cases ongoing. And if they didn't show up that day to file themselves as alternate, then if Trump won in those court cases, there would have been no legal remedy, guys, okay? So, dude, the way that this whole thing is being framed to you guys as some sort of attack on our institutions of government is absolutely a lie, okay? Chesborough allegedly orchestrated the plan to file fake elector certificates, and Trupis, Trump's attorney in Wisconsin, is accused of assisting him in organizing the fake electors. Roman also allegedly attempted to deliver the falsified paperwork. It's not falsified. And we are going to see exactly why it's not falsified. There's a whole process for this, man. Dude, the complaint said a majority of the electors told the investigators they didn't think their signatures on the certificate would be provided to Congress without a formal court ruling first. It needed to be provided to Congress, so that way, if there was a formal court ruling that then validated this slate of electors, Congress could then include those in the count. And on top of that, Mike Pence had final veto power in consideration, and also the ability to establish a committee to further investigate this stuff, as previously done in history, guys. This is not the first time this has happened before, and that's why they had to change the law afterwards. You are being lied to. No one ever tried to overthrow the government. No one ever tried to steal anything. No one ever tried to take anything over. It was the feds who stepped in order to prevent a legitimate process of determining and deciding and reviewing election procedures would take place. Okay, the feds wanted that to end, in my personal opinion. Troopa's second motion argued that they should proceed under federal law rather than state law, and that the charges he faced couldn't be brought in state court. The third motion called to dismiss the case, claiming there were no crimes listed in the complaint. The final motion requested a dismissal once again, as the election crimes can only be introduced by the county district attorney, not the state's attorney general. However, Attorney General Josh Call, a Democrat, was the one to file with the Wisconsin charges. Federal prosecutors investigating the scheme claimed the fake electors plan began in the Badger State. This is the first development in the Wisconsin case since Chesebro and Troopa settled a lawsuit brought against them regarding their plan to overturn the 2020 election. There are currently pending charges relating to the fake electors scheme in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and Nevada. Roman and Chesebro were two of the 18 people indicted alongside Trump by a Fulton County grand jury in the 2023 Georgia election case. Chesebro pleaded guilty to one federal charge of conspiracy to commit fraud. Yeah, but yo, I've been through this, man. Yo, the way that they pressure you to try to plead guilty with these plea deals and stacking the courts and the juries and everything, man. Like, dude, man, no, they pressure you to plead guilty. I don't trust this. When I see somebody take a plea like that, I don't trust it, dude. I do not take it as an admission of guilt, especially not the way pleas are coerced. And if you want evidence on how the court system coerces plea deals, you can look at all types of lefty documentaries about it, okay? Because that's a real thing. Yo, and then here's the other thing. Okay? Let's see. Georgia fake electors. Let's see what this is really all about. Let's break down this timeline and see what this is really all about, because what you've been told about this quote-unquote fake electors scheme is a load of bull, okay? And this is the Heritage Foundation, but I like the angle on this, and so that's why I'm reading it, and I like the reasoning here. The Georgia fake electors scheme. What does legal and political history tell the U.S. about these charges? Their opinion here. Key takeaways. 5 of 19 defendants indicted by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis are alleged to have been involved in the so-called fake elector scheme. 2, there's no question Trump had Trump actually prevailed in the courts, he would have been entitled to use those 16 electoral college votes, which means that if he had prevailed in the court and he was entitled to use those Georgia's 16 electoral college votes, and they had never been cast as alternate electors, that means that he would not have been able to do so, because there would have been no alternate electors for which, and there would have been no process for him to bring those electors forward after the fact. So that is why they absolutely had to file at the time that they did. So that way they were legally established as alternate electors when or if the court cases ruled in Trump's favor. Okay, so no, it was not an attempt to defraud anybody. Okay, and the protests, or whatever you want to call it, were not an attempt to coerce or intimidate anybody. Okay, and it certainly was not an attempt to prevent any sort of hearing. The people out there wanted the hearing to happen and continue. The only people that didn't were the Antifa members that were in the crowd, over 200 of them, the feds that were in the crowd. Literally, those were the ones in the front. Dude, man, I'm telling you right now, bro, we are being lied to, and our country is being manipulated by so many forces, including our own intelligence agencies right now, as all of these different forces and state actors attempt to vie for influence over our cultural zeitgeist. Guys, don't believe the government. Don't believe any major institutions, man. Don't trust these people, man. 5 of the 19 defendants indicted by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis are alleged to have been involved in so-called fake elector scheme, in which alternate electors pledged to support Donald Trump cast ballots on December 14, 2020, 2020, the date on which electors across the country had to show up at their respective state capitals to cast their ballots. In 6 states, including Georgia, in which Joe Biden had been declared the winner. But rather than being fake electors, per Willis, these 5 considered themselves to be contingent electors. They thought they were casting their ballots for Donald Trump to preserve the effectiveness of such a vote should Trump prevail in his legal challenges to the conduct of the election, because of how so many states changed their election procedures against their own state constitutions. And then it turned out the federal government didn't feel it had the jurisdiction to even rule on that, and so it was lost in standing, because they said, hey, first off, we don't know if we have the jurisdiction to rule on this, and also we're not sure you're the injured party. So they didn't even look at the cases on its merits. And dude, for these people to be indicted, for them to be indicted is literally the assumption that their intent was to subvert our electoral integrity and to essentially attempt a coup of our government. That is, and that was never their intent. You are literally ignoring their own testimony. And so it's just wild to me the amount of lawfare that's being in place. Among the 5, Kenneth Chesebro, an appellate lawyer who worked for Trump campaign, who was a so-called co-conspirator 5 in the federal indictment returned by special counsel Jack Smith involving the 2020 presidential election. He's credited with devising the scheme. He's a lawyer. His trial, along with Sidney Powell's, is currently scheduled to commence October 23rd in Fulton County before Judge Scott McAfee. The 4 others who are alleged to have followed Chesebro's advice and executed the scheme in Georgia are a lawyer in Atlanta representing the Trump campaign, 3 of the electors, 16 electors who cast. So now they're charging the people who represented Trump in court. Now apparently representing Trump in court is somehow being a co-conspirator. It's ridiculous, man. Of the remaining fake electors, 12 were granted immunity by Willis in return for their cooperation, and 1 remains under investigation by a special prosecutor after Willis's office was disqualified from continuing the investigation after it came a light that she'd hosted a fundraising event for his opponent. Wow, man. Dude, man, the level of partisan bull in this entire process between the last segment and this segment, man. It's crazy the games that these people try to play, because they're trying to control the cultural zeitgeist in the background, and they're trying to do it in a way that isn't obvious. They want to own our institutions. This is them attempting institutional capture right now, not necessarily by a foreign entity, but by people who desire to have a one-party state in this country, by people who, in my opinion, are fascists. So what was Chesebro's advice, and how strong was the case against these 5 defendants? The so-called scheme. In 3 memoranda dated December 16th, December 19th, addressed a former judge and campaign attorney for President Trump in Wisconsin. Chesebro opined that, based on his analysis of the law and historical precedent, the real deadline for finding by either the state or court's legislator as to who the true winner was in a particular state was not the date that the electors convened in their respective states to cast their ballots and submit them, but instead was the date that Congress was reviewing those electors' votes, that one fateful day in 2021. On that date, which was set by federal statute, the 12th Amendment provides that the President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all certificates, and that the votes shall then be counted. In this view, he noted in his first memorandum that was supported by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg after her dissenting opinion in Bush v. Gore. Okay, so there is Supreme Court precedent set by a dissenting opinion that was filed by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and noted that by noted liberal constitutional lawyer Lawrence Tribe. In her article, he wrote, in the immediate aftermath of the hotly contested election, then Governor George W. Bush against Al Gore, the states which were contested and were still pending, Chesebro recommended electors pledged to the Trump-Pence ticket should show up to cast their ballots on the same date and in the same manner as those pledged to the Biden-Harris ticket. Okay, so basically I botched that whole thing. So basically he's saying this has happened before, and in the same way that it was contested with Bush versus Gore, that it should be contested. It should be contested here in 2024. But he also added that the electors should show up at the same time as the Biden-Harris ticket electors. And he said, it may seem odd that electors pledge to the Trump-Pence ticket to do this on that date if the Trump's pet ticket is behind in the vote count and no certificate of election has been issued. But he continued that this was a reasonable course of action because it's highly uncertain that Congress could validly count electoral votes cast on a later date. Okay, so he's saying that this might be weird that we're doing this and we're showing up with alternate electors on this date, but there is legal precedent because of the wording in the Constitution, and if we show up at a later date, it's likely that we will have no recourse or remedy because there is no precedent to even allow us to enter alternate electors at that date. So to ensure that there is a remedy for the courts, we want to put these electors in now. Congress could validly count electoral votes on a later date. He said it's highly uncertain that Congress could validly count electoral votes on a later date. He cited what happened in 1960 in Hawaii as precedent for his recommendation. In his second memorandum, Chesebro acknowledged that this was a bold and controversial strategy which would focus public attention on the evidence of electoral abuses by the Democrats and would also buy the Trump campaign more time to win litigation that would deprive Biden of the electoral votes and add to Trump's column. He noted that though Van Jones and Larry Lessig, two noted liberal legal scholars who thought the final result in Pennsylvania might not be known by December 14th. So, dude, this whole situation was in a gray zone. The whole situation was, I encourage you guys to read the rest of this. So I also wanted to show you guys the Electoral Count Act, all right? The Electoral Count Act is a federal law setting forth procedures for the counting of electoral votes following a presidential election and for resolving any lingering election disputes. It was in place in its unamended form following 2020 election, but was substantially amended through the Electoral Count Reform Act and Presidential Transition Improvement Act of 2022. Wait. If the law was broken in 2021, why'd they need to do that in 2022? In 1876, our country experienced a presidential election between Samuel Tilden and Rutherford B. Hayes that was even more chaotic than our last one. In an election noteworthy for heavy turnout, violence, and widespread allegations of voter fraud, Tilden carried the popular vote, but the results of the Electoral College were in doubt in the same way. While Tilden won 184 electoral votes to Hayes 165, 4 states with a total of 20 electors submitted 2 slates of electors, but I thought they weren't allowed, guys. One voting for Tilden and the other voting for Hayes. To resolve the resulting crisis, Congress established a 15-member electoral commission composed of 5 senators, 5 representatives, and 5 Supreme Court justices. The election dispute was not settled until 2 days before inauguration, when by an 8-7 vote among the commissioners, which may have been the result of an infamous deal in which Hayes was awarded the votes based on a handshake agreement that he would remove federal troops from southern states that were still occupied following the Civil War, all 20 votes were given to Hayes, who was declared the winner. So, just like 2020, Tilden won the popular vote. Hayes did not win the popular vote, but there were questions in 4 states as to who got the electors. A Senate commission was set up to review and investigate. They then went with the dude who got less votes in terms of the popular vote. Now, there's these rumors for whatever. That's not legal precedent, okay? Dude, this has happened before. It's not illegal. Exactly what happened in 2020 happened before. And they're lying to you. They are lying to you. They're trying to act like this was some sort of extraneous legal situation, and it's not. Don't buy them, guys. Don't buy into the lies. Seriously, y'all. I want to keep this short real quick. Let's move on real quick to Higgins. You guys can watch this on your own. Higgins, a congressman, okay? Over 200 FBI in disguise on that day. Over 200 FBI in disguise outside the Capitol. 200 FBI. Have y'all seen the videos of the Capitol Police pulling back the gates, waving people in? Come on, Have y'all seen those videos, man? Dude, first off, not only that, ex-Capitol Police Chief sounds alarmed that it was a cover-up. A leaked interview between ex-Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund and former Fox News host Tucker Carlson revealed that Sund, the Capitol Police Chief on that day, believed officials were aware of the J cover-up at the Capitol before it happened. Were aware of the situation at the Capitol and covered it up after it happened, and covered up the fact that they knew about it. Right-wing company National Pulse leaked the interview, which was never aired by Fox. Previously unseen footage came after former president was saddled with 4 criminal charges regarding his allegations. Trump continues to deny any wrongdoings. Let's see. If I was allowed to do my job as police chief, we wouldn't be here. This didn't have to happen. Everything appears to be a cover-up. This is him right here as he testifies for Homeland Security. Dude, this is crazy, man. Dude, so we've got congressmen talking about FBI that were out there. We've got the chief of Capitol Police talking about a cover-up. We've got one of the people who sold to like ABC News the footage. We got proof that he had organized over 200 Antifa to show up there in disguise. Okay, well, not necessarily Antifa or leftist activists. Okay, whatever. Show up in disguise as accelerationists, dude. Man, you are being lied to, bro. You are being lied to about that day. You are being lied to. Okay, and dude, I just want you to know that, guys. So I'm sorry this took a little longer than I expected. I'll see you guys on the next segment.